Alright, this is for Ana Milanova, and she wants a critique on her artwork. Alright, so first things first. I think you've got some issues going on with, um, there's some tangents pretty much going on. Okay, so this right here is a hidden tangent. It's basically when the line connects to the other line. And also this is right here is kind of a tangent as well. It's not a bad one, but everything kind of ends at this point here, and so it generally tends to look slightly off, if you will. So that's kind of the first things I noticed right off the bat. The next thing I would say is I would actually probably get a little bit more color contrast in here. So the issue is you have basically the atmospheric perspective of the mountains, but then you don't have the atmospheric perspective for the trees. That's something that you probably want to kind of work into. And then the water range has a glow around it right here, and I think that needs to be fixed as well. So those are some things that I see right off the bat. So what I would say is if I were to do this, your composition doesn't really fall in the rule of thirds or one of those, because if you look, you've got the rule of thirds kind of like so, and she does fall on the rule of thirds, but I think that what you can do to kind of better create this composition is actually to kind of rearrange it. So if you go to the crops and you make sure you have, right now it's golden rule, you can do golden ratio, rule of thirds, whatever. So when you start moving it, so the first thing that I would do is move it so the point is on her head. And then what I would do is kind of move it so it's kind of like this something along the lines of this. And I think that maybe is a better crop for it. That's one way to do it. I mean, there's some things that we can play with, but that's something I would do. And then on top of that, if you've got this eclipse going on, if you ever look at a solar eclipse, you're going to get a lot of very bright light around it. So you're going to get a big halo going on. So that's something you want to add here. With this, I'm just going to really quickly do this here. So to start out with, let's just, I'm going to separate this real quick here. And we'll just really roughly here. Okay, so I would change up the way this goes, but for now this will be fine. Alright, did not want to do that, but we can work with it. So let's quickly, I think I'm just getting close to the edge. There we go. And then we can subtract. Okay, so the first thing that I would do is I'm going to cut this as a separate layer, and then I'm going to actually grab and I'm going to cut this, and then what I'm going to do is actually transform this to be just drastically bigger, and give it kind of a half empty type of thing, so like it's going in that direction. And then this is probably going to be super dark. Let me just solidify this. So this is going to be super dark, like so. And let's just, and then what you're going to do is also get, let's take off the transfer for now, because this is going to be super dark like that. And then that is actually going to, you're going to see some of the round from this bright light here. So you're, ooh, did not want to do that. So what you're going to have is, and it's really hard to get the eclipses because you really can't. So let's just do this, grab this, and so you want to give it some roundness, and I'm just going to rough that in there real quick, and I'm going to invert, and then I'm going to lock this layer, and I'm going to really grab a real highlight pink and pushing that in there like so, and then you want to probably do some radial bursts probably underneath it, something like, you know, I don't know, I just kind of look at, get some reference on this. I'm just drawing this from what I've seen. You want that eclipse glow in there. So that's the thing that I would say. And then instead of on her, what do you want to call it? This. So let's deselect. All right. So then we're gonna go back here, and with the forest, you know, we tend to think that this is, you know, just these basic trees, but the problem is, as the forest goes, you want to have some of the layers. So like we tend to, like you tend to make everything peaks. So let's just kind of grab this. Let's try this again. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to grab some of your sky tone and start by toning some of that back in there, like so. And then you can actually go in to the darks down here, and by doing that, you see now it's created a little bit more of a layer effect of your individual mountains, and that's something that you want to kind of do. And then mountains just generally don't go into mountains. The mountains go into hills. So then what you want to do is you want to, I'm just going to do this real quick here. So what you want to do is you want to have, you know, kind of, you want ups and downs, kind of like radio waves. And I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, which is evening them out. You know, you want to create a randomization of these trees, right? So then once that's done, you know, I've got my trees in there. Then you want to do layers of trees. So I'm just gonna, actually let's do, alright, so I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna grab my brush again, and I'm gonna start just, again, that lighter color, layer it in. And now you see, you know, it's not the 100% right, but it starts giving you a pattern of, it starts giving you a pattern of basically how the treetops flow in there. And then again, go in and grab your tonal values here, like so. And And so, as you can see, I'm starting to layer these things more and more and more. And while this isn't, 100% right, you're getting the idea of the way these forests will layer together. Just don't do the parallel lines like I did. Um, so that being said, then you've got the rock face up front. And to be honest with you, at that level, what I would tell you is um, you want to create a better rock facing, if that makes sense. So let me grab this. I'm just going to turn this off, and I'm going to just start painting some of this lines really quickly. Okay. All right. So all I'm doing right now is just kind of quickly cleaning up. All right. So like this. And in fact, I'm going to erase your thing because we don't have that mesh anymore. All right. And so what I'm going to do is grab this. Oops, wrong one here. Okay. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to just copy merged and paste and select transform. I'm going to flip vertical. I'm going to grab this. It wouldn't be squashed that much, but you get kind of the point. And then what I'm going to do is start killing some of that fill in there. So, and of course you want to kind of match it, but you've got the idea. So that's going to give you the fill. And then what you're going to do is this particular one here, what I would say is you've got the nice blend going on. I think the figure itself is a little bit bland. The problem I see is if you look at silhouettes, okay, I'm going to really quickly just grab her silhouette. And there. And I'm going to just copy that. And I'm going to dump all the light. So that's her silhouette now. So what I'm talking about with silhouettes is you've got this basically lady right here, and all she's doing is pretty much holding a, this is her silhouette right here. This is it. So what I would say is doing the same thing. I would say turning her a little bit. Holding the arm outward. Now this is kind of a difficult pose, but what I would say is either holding this arm outward and maybe even getting the hair blown. It gives it a little bit more sense of movement. She's nude, so give her the breasts. Get that female shape in there. I'm not liking the silhouette, but we can work with it. So then we're going to get, so I'm going to just get legs in here. Alright, so this is just really quickly a basic idea, but what you're looking at And I'm just going to move this over here. So what you're looking at all right, like so, is it's a much more visual silhouette, and I think that's what you're looking for. Um, you know, a little bit of this, you want more of the form going on in the figure. You want um, more of the feeling how that figure is standing. This way as the wind is blowing, we could even take her head and move it up like so, and you start getting the idea that it's a much more interesting pose, and the silhouette makes a huge difference. So that's something that you want to kind of work with. That being said, so then what you want to do is get a better silhouette in here, and then the rocks. You've got these rock faces in here, and I'm just going to use some of your dark blacks here that you originally had, and if you start by building up these darker colors, you can see how I'm putting depth into the rock face. It's not much, hopefully YouTube picks it up, but you can see that this cliff facing now has a little bit of depth. It has um, darkness in there, and then again a little bit more contrast in there, especially since you've got this bright light going on. You want to almost pick some of that light and reflect it on certain things, especially her skin, um, her face, and just bring her highlights out. And then since you've got dark shadows between her legs, you also want those dark shadows starting out at her feet. After her feet, you can start lightening it up, but you want that gradient in there. Um, and then, you've got this in this mountainous region. You've also got um, the idea of, it's rocky terrain, but cliffs generally don't happen like this. What they do is they tend to round out, especially when you're getting up here. And then, the reason there's upper cliffs a lot of times is you want a softer edge, and it's okay to have that hard edge. It's kind of this ideal, I don't know what you want to call it, this idea we have from the old Bugs Bunny cartoons and stuff. But things that you can do are start adding a little bit of silhouettes in there. Maybe little trees here and there, and then give those shadows too. And that's gonna start making this look a little bit more organic. And that's kind of what you really are going for. So, again, fix your moon here. Um, give it the exaggeration. What I would say, if you have get some eclipses, or half eclipses as a reference, but also on top of that, you might want to try putting it behind the mountains, and you'll get a cool radial effect. I just saw a picture the other day of a sunset eclipse, and it really really cool as far as it was illuminating and darkening the mountains at the same time. So that might be something you want to look at. And then at this point, you've got all this texture in the mountains here, but you have no texture in the 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 cliff here, and you're so close to the cliff. That's when you want to put the rocks. Let's go a little bit down here. So that's when you want to put the rocks, and break that up with a little bit of texture. It doesn't have to be much. Let me just do not a gravel texture. Let's do a ground texture. I'm just going to grab something, just first thing I see off the web here. and I'm just going to paste that in there. Oops, it would actually help to paste it in Photoshop. So, and then I'm instantly going to put this on overlay. I'm going to transform this. Oops, undo, and then transform, and let's go to perspective, and let's grab this out like this, and just and let's go free transform. Oops, and free transform. There we go. No. And transform again, and something as simple as this. Um, something as simple as this now has, that much more of a look. And, it doesn't even have to be a lot. It just has to be in there enough to give you the idea of shadows and highlights and things like that. So, more texture there. And also, I know this is water's calm, but you might want to hint that there's some sort of waves over there. Um, and also, let's see here, want to, that's here, I would go in and we got to clean up this. Um, but essentially, that's how we would kind of go with the next step on this. All right, I hope that helps.